So I have with me Salmaan Khawaja, Partner M&A and Transaction Advisory, Grant Thornton UAE. Mr. Salmaan, welcome to this interview. What makes power and water projects attractive to investors, in your opinion?
A number of factors, really. Look, firstly, there's the cash flow visibility. Most of these projects have long-term contracts, 25, 30 years. That gives visibility to lenders and equity investors. There's a lot of demand that's taking place in this space. You've got oil and gas majors shifting towards green energy, renewables, and there's a lot of investment going in, and that demand for more projects creates an interest. A lot of transactions that we've seen globally have attracted huge premiums, and again, from an investor perspective, also. There's two factors. And number one is most of these projects are highly leveraged. What that means is that from an equity investor perspective, you have a lower commitment requirement from an equity investor perspective. Also, there is sufficient funding available. You've got equity loans, equity bridge loans that we see quite a lot in the market, where you don't have to put up cash equity. So there are structures in place which then make it more attractive, and also this is a diversification tool. Most of the long-term funders with that like to match the liabilities with assets, those are the sort of traditional investors, and you're getting significant returns for projects that are with this duration. So all of these factors make it quite attractive,
as well as political stability. Right.
I mean, look, infrastructure is very much a sensitive topic from a government's perspective as well. We've seen certain governments across the world creating more policies to make it more protective as an industry. So that protectionism is clearly there. But look, on the whole, there's got to be a fundamental global policy around green energy, because as we heard in the event as well, the world is falling behind in terms of its targets to meet the net zero target. The pandemic hasn't helped in that regard. There's been a slowdown. So all of these things also need to be taken into account. But political issues are clearly one factor that do impact some of these projects.
Speaking about targets, how much investment is needed for the industry to achieve its carbon neutral goals? I know it's a difficult question, but...
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of studies out there, and different studies talk about very different... They all talk about trillions of dollars. I think what's important for us as an advisor, we look at, what are companies actually doing across the world. We've seen some, major large corporates, such as Ford, investing just this year. Is reported that they'll be investing $11 billion. They also plan to, invest significantly over the next few years, and their aim is to create, source renewable energy in their plants locally. So this is just one example. There's many other, companies doing the same. You've got UAE over here. To meet the 2050 targets, it's expected that UAE will spend $600 billion, dirhams, on green energies. So if there's a collective effort, which most of the countries are doing, there is a need to create more awareness and education around the topic, because not every company, not every country still really is realizing the importance of this topic. So infrastructure, the policies around infrastructure is very important, because then that helps to create an environment where the stakeholders, be it the lender, be it the equity investor, there's an appropriate risk allocation, and it gives clarity to them as to where they need to invest. UK, as an example, is quite liberalized, and there has been clarity on certain policies around the infrastructure space, and water as an example, and that has resulted in international investments we've seen going there just on the basis of that clarity being provided. So I think that's is a collective effort that needs to be done globally for people to meet the target.
With all what's happening in the geopolitics and the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, is financing still the main challenge for renewable or the energy transition?
I think there's a lot of money going into this space. Actually, I have not seen, for the right assets and for the right projects, there is a lot of demand. You see local projects here as well. When I say local, I talk about region. We've seen, 4 or 5 consortiums running after projects, and so there's demand for it. I don't think that has created a constraint in resourcing. It's because it is the future. Everyone realizes that this sector is here to stay. There's a sustainability issue. So and also there's various structures that come in which help allow banks to be able to lend. There's some structures that have been brought in which create an appetite for banks to be able to participate in these projects. So I would say, look, there may be a short-term impact of the war. Clearly, it's a significant event, and we'll have to see how things go. But as we see, also there's a lot of dry powder to invest in this project in this sector.
Is the merger and acquisitions part of the solutions?
I think it's part of the solution, not the entire solution, but we're seeing a lot of investments and acquisitions being made where even the traditional oil and gas majors are looking to invest in green energy, and that is creating a volumes in this space. Look, I think ultimately there's got to be a public-private partnership. I think governments cannot do it alone, neither can probably the private sector. So I think there needs to be that partnership which allows long-term projects to be created. But you are seeing reasonable amounts of transactions happening in this space. I mean, we as an advisor in the UK saw electric vehicle charging business being acquired by a US listed company, and that company is looking to broaden their investments across Europe. So you're seeing M&A, but more in the space because ultimately people want to return out of their investments as well. So that will be a solution that will continue. But as I said, the public-private partnership is also an important aspect.